Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Indieverse Radio Show on Indie Rocks Radio. I'm your host Thomas Jackson and I'm joined today by another special guest, Elliot Gaspar of Limbo Days. Why don't you say hi?
Hello.
Thanks for coming on to the show today, Elliot. And how about we give yourself a little introduction to people?
So my name's Elliot Gaspar. I currently write and produce in the project Limbo Days. Previously been in a band called the Slumdogs, who you may have heard, who are kind of like a post-punk outfit based in the northwest of England. I'm kind of bouncing between Manchester and Blackpool at the moment, but I'd like to hopefully see everybody across England at some point in the near future. So the first track we're going to be playing is Limbo Days one. This one's called Conversations.
Conversations there by Limbo Days, and the man who behind that song is with me right now, Elliot Gaspar.
Hello.
And Elliot, I was just very interested about your creative process when approaching a new song. Obviously, we've released quite a lot of new music recently.
I mean, a lot of it I kind of started at university when I was back in Leeds. It was kind of like a final project thing to record the selection of music and produce it and get it to release standard. So I kind of had all these tunes I'd been building up over the years, kind of demos and stuff. And then eventually got them recorded for that project and went and released them earlier this year. Once the Slumdogs kind of started dying down a bit, kind of looked into releasing some more Limbo Days stuff. And then started working more on it throughout the summer. And you've got tunes like Heatwave, which I've done kind of mainly because of COVID and being at home alone. I mean, a lot of the tunes I'd write at home alone first. Well, not necessarily home alone, but on my own per se. Yeah, so with Heatwave, I kind of started using electronic drums and drum samples a bit more, since recording drums is kind of most awkward to record, especially when you've not got the space for it. You have to like hire out studios and stuff, which is virtually impossible during COVID anyway. So I kind of went about using these drum machines and putting guitars over that, and then Heatwave came out due to that, and then I had another 2 tracks that I'd recorded a bit back, which I started to work on finishing, which were Vultures and I Wanna Be Someone. So they're the kind of last 2 tracks I released, but they were recorded like about a year odd ago now, probably a bit longer. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to get some new stuff out, because all of the stuff I've recorded and released, it's all kind of quite old now. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, it kind of represents what Limbo Days is and what Limbo Days does, but it's definitely going in a different direction at the moment. So it'd be cool to get some new releases out and show everybody what's up the sleeve.
Yeah, really excited to hear what you're coming out with next, because what you've already got, I'm absolutely a massive fan of, especially Heatwave. I know we've been speaking off the air about how much I'm a big fan of that, and I've been sending it to all my friends, being like, listen to this guy, he's brilliant.
Cheers, man.
Yeah, that's all right. It's such a unique style of, that you don't quite hear nowadays, and hopefully style of music might be becoming more popular, because it is my style of music that I love to listen to. I'm a very big I don't know if he's someone that you follow your work as well, but like the Smiths and David Bowie, they're probably my 2 favourite musicians for like the indie sort of sound.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot of artists nowadays who I think there's a lot of kind of, it's like a copycat culture, I'd say. Like, it's all kind of similar. There's a lot of cheesy kind of stuff. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. There's nothing necessarily unique per se, and
no.
a lot of my favorite artists and music is kind of old stuff, which I think kind of says something. There's nothing kind of groundbreaking nowadays. I mean, there is, but not on the same level there used to be.
I don't personally listen to her. I think like the best you're getting in the mainstream, I guess, is Billie Eilish or something.
Yeah.
Based off the little bit I've heard of her. Just because I don't tend to listen to the radio, so now I'm just stuck in my old set ways of, unless it's an indie rocks radio song anyway.
Yeah, I mean, with Billie Eilish, I think a lot of artists nowadays, it's very heavily based on the production, and if the production's good, then that song's going to get played in a lot of places, which is kind of part of the reason why I stopped doing like studying songwriting at uni and went on to do production instead.
Strengthening your future almost.
Yeah, basically. And a lot of the classes that I went into when I was doing songwriting, it was all kind of like, analyze this Taylor Swift song or music video or this Ed Sheeran single or something. And they say they tailor to everybody's taste, but it was like, I was walking into lessons and it was like, I don't want to learn about this. I want to be able to write stuff that'll kick all this stuff out the charts and completely reshape the industry.
It's almost establishing the next generation to continue doing what the current one is, rather than learning your own way almost.
Yeah, I think record labels are kind of playing it safe, and whatever artists they have, they'll get them to create stuff that's similar to what's already on the radio and they know is successful for them to be successful. Just kind of playing it safe, as opposed to taking risks with new creative artists who could push the field further and create some great new music.
Do you think this might be a bit of a byproduct of streaming services almost? With Spotify, you want to get something that's, could be repeatedly listened to, and if it's something that's already been listened to, it's safe, it's what people are respecting, they're going to just put it on repeat and get those like streams up. Whereas back in the day, possibly you'd take a few more risks because people would be like, oh, I've already got an album like that, I'll buy something else so it's different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we don't necessarily listen to albums anymore, do we? It's all kind of singles. And when we used to get albums, there's obviously a lot more kind of diverse songs on there usually. So I think nowadays it's kind of single based, and that's potentially why they're kind of doing them all similar. I don't know. It's a tough one.
So how about we get on, as I say, my favourite, one of your songs, Heatwave?
Yeah, let's do it.
Gotta look for something, cause that ain't right. Too cold, you need warming up. Even when the sunshine ain't enough. What about them? What about everyone else? Well, are they in the same position, or do they realize that it's all in just get out of bed, yeah. Get bored and then we stop. I wonder whether there's another waiting for us undercover that you never seen before, but you can know like any other. Time is on your side, but you just slide around. Time can make your world spin around. You don't need anyone to get down, down. Can you feel it in the night? Is that darkness that you fight? Always likes to grab a hold till you do as you are told. Can you feel it coming? Oh, it's coming. It's coming for you. You. And you. And you. Oh, we don't wanna be alone. The loneliness is homegrown. Gets caught in the weeds. It's got you down on your knees. Still, won't you help me? I need some loving to make me do, so I can sleep through the night with my mind every time it's
Discover something new with Indie Rocks Radio, Manchester's rising station.
Evil Woman by Electric Light Orchestra there. Elliot, that's someone who I felt really reflected a lot, quite close to your music. So, you know, really great arts and full of a massive range of stuff there.
Oh, thank you, Thomas. So, yeah, it's a very nice compliment. Yeah, I like a bit of ELO. Not a little bit, but a lot. Got a great catalogue of music. Yeah, do love a bit of him. Jeff Lynne.
Is there anyone else that, you know, you feel like inspires your music either? I know you said you're a big fan of like older music.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of old music more so than new music. I feel that's where my kind of taste lies. So it'll be like ELO, songwriting wise, like ELO, Lennon and McCartney, and then for like soul and attitude, like Bill Withers, James Brown. And then kind of more modern stuff, I might listen to like Tame Impala, kind of Matt DeMarco, those kind of DIY artists kind of produce themselves and put themselves in a completely different direction to other people, like King Cruel as well. He's one that kind of changed how I saw music kind of early on in my career.
Do you know what you were saying like about liking, you know, older music? Where do you think that comes from? Like for me, I feel like I'm the same. I feel like that comes from the music I grew up with my parents. I always remember if it was house cleanup day, there'd be ABBA on.
Yeah, I mean, I have memories kind of when I was younger being in my dad's car, and he'd put on a lot of like Led Zeppelin or Deep Purple. So my dad was kind of classic rock like, and then my mum would kind of have Motown soul kind of stuff. And I suppose yeah, it kind of shapes you eventually. And early on in my childhood, I remember listening to the radio on the way to school quite a lot and being into what was playing on the radio. And back then it was kind of a lot of indie rock kind of stuff. So I guess that's kind of shaped my music taste into what it is today as well. Because back then it was like Arctics and it was like the Hoosiers, if you remember them.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. And then I remember getting into Kings of Leon eventually because they had Sex on Fire come out, and I ended up getting Come Around Sundown actually, which is a great album, but one that's not favoured by a lot of Kings of Leon fans. But a great one nonetheless.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a listen when I can. I've not been too listened to too much Kings of Leon, so I'll have to get that up after this.
They've got some new music out apparently, haven't they?
Oh, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too bad. I wasn't a big fan of the Walls album, but well, I like the sound of the new ones. They sound alright.
Yeah, for me, I think the main Kings of Leon song is the only ones that Sex on Fire.
They've got a low more tracks than that. A lot of
I think it's the one everyone knows because it was in the charts, and after that, for me anyway, I didn't follow them.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went and looked at their older stuff. I mean, the first car I got, there wasn't an aux player, so it was just CDs. So I'd make my own CDs of just kind of albums or whatever, and would listen to those CDs, and a lot of them were kind of Kings of Leon's early stuff. And they've got some great stuff on those early records, so I do advise you to listen to them.
Yeah, I'm with you there with not having an aux. I was doing the exact same thing when I got my Punto.
Yeah, it's all about the mixtapes.
Yeah. And how about you introduce us to a song from one of your inspirations?
So yeah, the song I've chosen is one by Tame Impala off his Currents album, and it's called Eventually.
Tune in on a Wednesday evening on Indie Rocks Radio to Anything Goes, but only if I like it. Playing classic indie and new indie, underground sounds of the last 50 years. Anything Goes, but only if I like it. On a Wednesday evening, Indie Rocks Radio, 10 till midnight.
Happy Together by the Turtles. And currently, I'm quite happy together with Elliot, who's on the show from the Limbo days. And, the Turtles, a bit of a trendsetter in their day, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, they were great, all like Beach Boys as well, Beatles. Yeah, all kind of on going for that same kind of thing. But I think Turtles kind of pushed it with choral stuff. I mean, the Beach Boys did as well. Everybody was kind of pushing it back then. Unlike, I mean, it is kind of happening now as well, but I don't think, not necessarily in the same way. I think it's more kind of production based. People are pushing it now.
Yeah, increasing that quality. Is there any trends right now that you think like, keeping an eye on that and trying to take, a bit of inspiration from?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to avoid it at some times, but I mean, there are kind of things that I'm into nowadays with the music that's coming out. Like I was saying before, I was like Tame Impala, Mac DeMarco, King Cruel and all that, with all these kind of jazzy influences. And then there's a lot of kind of drum machine incorporation coming in at the moment with kind of like R&B feels. It's just kind of like indie rock made more modern and pop through the inspiration from R&B that's on the radio occasionally. Kind of like noughties R&B or 90s R&B, it tends to be influenced by more so than R&B nowadays. I think R&B tends to get mistaken for this kind of trap that comes out on the radio now. But no, I think trend-wise, it seems to be kind of going in the direction of these kind of like chill hop beats with kind of neo soul and jazz influenced melodies and drum machines and all that kind of stuff. So the next song I've chose kind of represents that, I think, and that's the band Easy Life with their song Sunday.
Streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, around the world. This is Indie Rocks Radio.
So that was The Legitimate Way by the Slumdogs, Elliot's previous band. Elliot, I was just wondering, obviously you were with this band for 5 years, did you say?
Yeah, roughly about 5 years, I think. Me and Will, the bassist, kind of been in bands together maybe for about 7 years, and that kind of led into Slumdogs. But kind of Slumdogs kind of started about 5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, over that time, how do you think you've grown since? What have you learned from your time in Slumdogs?
Definitely grown massively. I mean, I've been through university during all that, kind of played a lot of shows all around the UK, worked with managers and labels and stuff like that. So I've definitely learned a lot about the industry, kind of how to go around contacting people. A lot of it nowadays you've got to kind of do it yourself, so you don't get much help from anybody, or at least we didn't, even when we had this manager kind of guy anyway. So you've got to learn a lot for yourself, kind of emailing people, finding out who the reviewers are and the bloggers that you can contact when you're releasing a single or whatever, just who to message and how to build up a scene, kind of. I mean, we kind of did it with gigs back then. We used to gig quite a lot, but now it's a bit more difficult to do that. It's kind of more social media based, so kind of you got to kind of focus on that a bit now, at least until live shows open up again. So learned a bit through doing social media back then, which kind of incorporate into how I go about things now in terms of managing Limbo days.
I hear a lot about with managers and agents that they should be putting in as much work as you do.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, yeah, definitely. I mean, managers and agents, they're the ones supposedly with the contacts anyway, so they'd put words in for you to get played on this radio station or get a review from this blog or to get certain influencers to check you out, basically. And that's kind of the main reason that kind of agents and managers are used, obviously for like booking gigs and all that kind of stuff as well. So you can supposedly solely focus on the kind of creative side of stuff, but I feel like you've still got to kind of stay on top of it anyway, though, to make sure that what you want to be done is being done, and nobody's doing anything kind of getting you to do anything that you don't want to do. It's still very much your thing as well. So yeah, I think kind of learning how to do things independently to some extent that I've kind of picked up the most from being in the Slumdogs.
Is there any sort of advice that you feel like you could give someone who's possibly starting out, even possibly about to pick up their first instrument?
Picking it up, if you're only just picking up an instrument, I'd advise to go learn a lot of songs and go sit at the instrument every night for as long as you can, just playing random notes until you have a song, and keep doing that until you've got yourself a good catalogue of music. I mean, for me, I kind of started off throughout high school just kind of picking up. I mean, social media was kind of becoming a thing back then, and so to be on social media the odd time, but then I'd kind of go and sit on an instrument every day. I mean, when I was at school, I was at school a bit further away from where I live, so there wasn't really many people I knew near me, so I'd be at home a lot of the time, so I'd just be kind of a bit bored, and then I'd have instruments around me, so I'd sit on the instruments for a fair few hours, and I'd do that every night, and then slowly started to kind of get better at them, and then at the end of high school started to work in a band. I was kind of writing music a little bit anyway, but then I kind of got in a band with mates and focused on songwriting a bit more and improving through practicing. So I'd kind of say if you're just picking up an instrument, learn some songs, sit at your instrument for as long as possible until you create something or just feel satisfied through satisfying your boredom or anything. And then get in a band if you can with other people. I feel like you learn a lot from jamming with people or writing songs with people. So I'd advise that, and just kind of get yourself out there. Just nobody's going to do anything for you. You've got to go out and message people, go out and put your posters up. Well, be careful where you put posters because you might get a cheeky fine, but you've just got to do it yourself. Get emailing people. Don't be afraid to kind of email people. You've got YouTube and stuff nowadays, so you can kind of research how to go about things. There's a guy on YouTube who's good with kind of music promotion kind of stuff. I think he's called like Damien Keys or something like that. And he kind of goes through how to release singles and what you should be doing on social media and just kind of how to present yourself online, because a lot of it nowadays is how you present yourself online. People are going to see you, how you look and how you've presented yourself before they hear your music most of the time. And that's going to happen until your music starts getting played on Spotify playlists and radios and stuff like that. So you've got to present yourself well, I think, and just get your name out there. Yeah.
And how about we bring it back to some of your own music? We play something that you feel like reflect the amount of improvement that you've had.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of chosen this one. It's just, I think songwriting wise, I feel like I've opened up a bit more kind of spiritually. I'm not like a religious person per se, but I've just kind of become more honest to myself, I think, in the way that I kind of write songs and create music. And I think it's kind of about not shying away from certain emotions, whether you think someone might mock you for that or not, just being honest with yourself. And I think people will appreciate if it's more honest anyway. So the song I've chosen is You Can't.
You can't do everything you're wanting to do. You've gotta jump in the queue. Everything you're wanting to say, it never turns out the way you want it to. Although your life has started slipping away, you get from day to day, and no, don't you? Though things may bubble and come out of the blue, I think you know what to do, and no, don't you? Don't you? I don't know everything, but I wanna get close to you. Turns out the way you want it to. Although your life has started slipping away, you get from day to day, and no, don't you? Though things may bubble and come out of the blue, I think you know what to do, and no, don't you? Don't you? close to you.
Hi, my name's Gordon. You can listen to my show That Sound every Sunday from 11am to 12pm and on repeat in the early hours of Monday morning from 1am to 2am. I'll be playing some of my favourite songs from an eclectic mix of indie, rock, punk, soul and just some all-round great tunes. So make sure you tune into my show That Sound with Gordon Taggart at Indie Rocks Radio.
Changes by David Bowie there. A song, surprisingly enough, all about changes. And that's something that the music industry has gone through quite a lot of. And Elliot, something that I was really interested in was, well, something I'm interested in for all artists are, what would they like to change about the industry if they had the power to?
I think for a lot of artists in this field, I'd say radio. I don't know, a lot of artists kind of don't want to be on the radio necessarily, but I think the radio needs to change. I mean, FM ones anyway, because it's all kind of the same generic pop stuff at the moment, or like it'd be kind of nostalgic stuff, which isn't too bad, but mostly it's this kind of generic pop thing, and I feel like there needs to be some more kind of diversity in there, and I just don't think labels are kind of taking that jump with anybody original or new at the moment. They're just kind of playing it safe with artists and getting them to write music that's similar to what's already in the charts because they know that's successful. And I think there should be labels taking a chance more on these other artists and getting, like, filling people's ears with more diverse stuff and expanding people's musical tastes. I think it's important to do. I think what else I think needs changing is the pay for musicians from streaming and stuff like that. It's a big issue at the moment. I know there's a lot of organisations that are kind of fighting for streaming services to pay better, and it seems like it's only these big artists that are getting the nice chunk of money from it all. And yeah, I think that needs to become more fair, because musicians, they've got a lot to pay for. I mean, I think it's like 3,000 odd streams for like £8 from Spotify, which for an upcoming artist is not a lot when you might get 3,000 listens like after a fair few months or whatever. I mean, and that's only £8 from that as well.
Yeah.
When you've got to think about travel costs for practicing or getting to gigs, recording costs, like money for like session musicians or food or whatever, like, and none of these musicians can live on that. And I think that's quite sad, because the entertainment industry is a big part of our culture, and I think it's only fair that musicians and creative people are seen as a part of that and able to solely do that for people's entertainment and be able to live off it as well, because that's what they love doing as well. I mean, I'm one of those peoples that are kind of I'm one of those people that are kind of for doing something that you love doing and not doing something that's because of money.
Yeah.
Not doing something because financially you'd be better off. You do it because you love it. And I think that's like the case with a lot of musicians, but we should be able to survive on what we get as well, I think.
I remember there was a project on the go that I'm terribly sorry I can't remember the name of now, but they were trying to rebel against the streaming service.
Yeah.
In how they mistreat artists, and they were saying that like artists only get paid for like the first few seconds of the actual being listened to, and then anything after that, it's they don't get paid for it. So they're only essentially being paid for like let's say if you was to go to work, to say, and go for an 8-hour shift, it would be like only being paid for the first hour.
Right. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought that you had to listen to a track for, I think it's over 15 or 20 seconds for it to be counted as a listen or a stream even. But I didn't know they based it on that.
Which I guess is kind of understandable in the sense of if you're just flicking through your playlist, there's, you know, the amount of songs that you might skip straight away.
Yeah, definitely.
So in some respects, I can understand why they would do that sort of rule, but at the same time, when a song has been listened to, fucking pay them fairly.
Yeah, if they've listened to it over 15 or 20 seconds or whatever, then yeah, definitely, I think count it as just a full listen.
Is there any songs that you sort of listen to and really inspire you with the passion for change?
I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, there's people like Michael Kiwanuka, who I think is kind of an optimistic guy in terms of the way he writes music and how his music sounds. And then even kind of modern Kevin Parker stuff, Thames and stuff. But no, I mean, this song, I don't know why it doesn't necessarily. Alabama Shakes don't necessarily resonate with me in terms of change, but I feel like this song kind of lights a bit of a fire in me to want to change something or not to have disagreements with anybody, and just kind of for us to all live on this kind of equal termed planet. And just kind of get along and accept that we have some differences, but kind of make it work for everybody. And I think that song it might not mean that directly, but that's what I kind of pick up from it a bit. That's what I kind of take from it. So the song I've chosen is Don't Wanna Fight by Alabama Shakes, which is just an all-out bop anyway.
Indie Rocks Radio. New artists and classic hits 24 hours a day.
Cascade of Gold there by Suave Martins, a lovely song coming out of the indie circuit. And I think we can get onto a few extra questions. These will be exclusively on this podcast, so if you listen to the radio show, you're getting new stuff now, don't worry. And so taking it back to a bit more of a serious, I guess, topic, is how do you go about seeking opportunities for yourself? I know, as you were saying, with learning from your time in Slumdogs, you started to learn a lot more about utilising social media.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to you obviously learn how to, as much as I hate social media, you've got to kind of utilise it and learn how to use it when you're an artist, like for promotion and things like that, especially if you're starting out or haven't got an agent. You need to become familiar with it and just kind of constantly look at other bands and how they go about it and pick up little ideas and tips from them and how they go about it. You learn from other people similar to you in some way. They don't necessarily even have to be similar, but ideally at a similar stage to you and have similar budget or whatever. Look at someone that's doing well and base what you're doing off that. But I think opportunity wise, you've just got to build your network of communications and open people that you can contact, industry people, anybody that you meet, even at a gig or whatever, bands you're playing with, just be friendly with them, get on with them, and hopefully you can collaborate with them at some point, or they can put in good words for you, and it can kind of work both ways.
Yeah, I think the last artist we had on here, Brandon Smith Warner, he was saying a very similar thing as his advice to like new artists. So if 2 people are saying it, it must be true. Multiple people are saying that. So if you're listening now, it's something definitely to take note of. So something I get quite commonly asked as a filmmaker is what film I'd want to be a part of if I could have. You know, thinking back like, oh, you know, I would have loved to have been part of Full Metal Jacket, for example. And I wanted to ask you now quite a similar question in that I wanted to know about what song or album you wish you could have been involved in.
I think Hendrix's stuff would have been fun to work on because he's very avant-garde, quite out there and wild. I feel like you can be more creative with that kind of stuff. I mean, as a producer anyway, you could just go absolutely wild working with him, try all sorts of stuff. I think it'd be cool to kind of push the boat out there with an artist that wants to be creative and out there as well, because then it allows space for you to experiment and learn new things and hopefully create a cool, unique, original sound. So I think definitely something Hendrix as well, maybe Electric Ladyland, I'd say. But yeah, that would be cool.
Do you think if you, while you were there, you would have got him to teach you how to play guitar with your teeth?
Yeah, that would be quite fun to do, wouldn't it? Pull that one out at gigs. It's a little showstopper. When
we've been speaking off air, you mentioned that you're into old sort of civilization like the Egyptian. And I want to know right now, there's been a lot of talk about it, and I'm sure everyone at home is wondering the answer to this. Were the pyramids actually built by aliens, or were they built by us? Well,
nobody actually knows for certain today. I mean, it could have been done by us as well, but I don't know. I don't know who it was built by, but there's a lot of theories as to like why it was made and all sorts of things. I mean, the aligning with certain stars, I think it's the Orion's Belt or whatever, is absolutely crazy accurate. So for them to have built that, they must have been looking down at Earth from like bird's eye view or higher, which supposedly we didn't have equipment good enough to do that with back then. So there must have been either some kind of advanced civilization or people from another planet, who knows. I mean, there's the old ancient Sumerian tablets, which are the oldest tablets and scriptures found, I think. I can't remember how old they are, but pretty goddamn old. And they kind of talk about the Anunnaki. I don't know if you've heard of the Anunnaki.
No,
these kind of like 10-foot tall people that supposedly came from this. There's a theory they came from the 12th planet in our solar system, or the 9th planet, I think it's called. I'm not sure. I think it goes by the name of Nibiru at times. And on these tablets, there's pictures of our solar system, like the sun and all the planets in the solar system. And I think there's 12 on there, and previously we only thought there was 11, but science has proved that there's actually a 12th planet hidden behind another planet, and that would explain why certain things are getting pulled towards it because of the gravity or the mass of it or something. They could have came from that planet, and there's a theory that they came and basically we were Neanderthals at the time. They cloned us to a fifth of their intelligence because we only use a fifth of our brain power and they got us to mine gold for them for their planet because they needed that to save their planet or something. I can't remember where I've even picked this up from, but I seem to have stumbled across it on many sources. Matt Bellamy from Muse is big on it as well. And yeah, but with the pyramids, I just find it weird that the material that the pyramids are made of, they're all like highly conductive materials, like there's like limestone and crystal and metals and granite, and they're all like high conductors of electricity. And the pyramids also sit on the strongest electrical current that runs through the earth. So it makes you wonder whether there's something like power related in terms of the reason that they were made. I mean, I stumbled across something earlier. I think it was on, I don't know if it was on NASA's website or something, some kind of big website or like official organization that said that they've proven that the chambers concentrate electromagnetic energy. So I don't know, like there's a lot of kind of evidence to show that they could have been power plants, and the fact that they face the stars as well, and from how difficult it would have been to build, there's a lot of kind of you wonder whether it almost couldn't have been humans back then, and if it was humans back then, it would have been an advanced civilization more so than what we are now.
I was watching recently, a bit of a tour of the inside of the pyramids, and I was like surprised to see that it was just quite small tunnels with little rooms more than anything. I expect it to be like grand hall or something full of statues and gold and.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. They were never the Great Pyramid. Anyway, it was never a tomb. They never found a mummy in it, so it wasn't for what we think that, well, or taught that pyramids are for, and these tombs and stuff like that. So it can't be for that. So yeah.
And then the other one is some of the markings inside. Like there's I believe it's the King's Room. You have the stone box, the empty box. Some of the markings on that were, it's believed that it couldn't have been possibly done with hand tools. It could have only done with machines. Yeah.
There's a few, I don't know if you'd say cuts, but yeah, fair few markings in the pyramid. Engravings, yes.
Yeah.
In the pyramid and kind of on the outsides as well. I was fortunate to go to Egypt a few years ago, and then in the Sphinx as well, there's kind of walls and stuff, and all the engravings are kind of the stones, they fit perfectly, and it's like, how would they have been able to cut this stone so perfect and accurately straight? And they were symmetrical with the other wall as well, which is really bizarre. And the way that these stones were kind of curving as well, it was just it's weird. I mean, there's always going to be this fascination with it because what we're told isn't accurate with what we're seeing. So
yeah, and it's I don't know if we'll ever be able to become accurate with it until we invent time travel, if that's even possible.
Yeah, or we get some Anunnaki coming over from Nibiru anytime soon to back us up.
Yeah, and so the other one is you see the shape of the pyramids all around the world.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere,
with very
aren't they?
Similar designs on as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of megaliths and stuff like that. A lot of these ancient sites that all sit on this electrical current as well. They all kind of sit on this current, so you wonder as well whether they all had communication because of this current that was passing this electromagnetic energy. To be on the other side, that possibly they're able to sense this current somehow, and they saw it more as a spiritual thing, like a spiritual link. Pyramids were more of a ceremonial, link as a way to harness that spiritual energy that they recognize as being spiritual energy. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that when they go around these kind of ancient sites that they feel this kind of spiritual energy or whatever, but that could potentially be the electrical current that's running underneath them or around them or whatever that they're feeling. I went to Stonehenge for summer solstice a few years ago, and I kind of experienced a similar thing. Like, it was just like you could feel this kind of energy, and I don't know whether it was just being there on summer solstice as well. It's quite a kind of spiritual event anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah, a lot of shamans, whatever you call them.
Yeah,
but yeah, whether that is why that people encounter those kind of spiritual experiences. But I know obviously they kind of worship these areas anyway.
I guess it could be quite easy to get lost in sort of that moment and like almost like a shared experience with everyone else if they're feeling a certain way.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, you know, it's the same type of thing. It's hard to be sad at a gig because everyone else is so happy.
Yeah. Nah, no, I get what you mean.
So I feel like we're coming to an end, sadly, to our time together.
Oh, well.
I've sort of run out of questions for you. You've obviously been an amazing guest to have on.
Well, thank you for having me.
No, it's
been very
brilliant.
nice. It's been nice kind of having a chat with someone outside the circle that I've been speaking to throughout COVID, I suppose, and talking about all sorts of new topics other than COVID and the weather.
And if you've enjoyed what you've listened to here tonight, then be sure to come back next week for another episode of the Indieverse Radio Show, where I'll be having Charlie back on, our usual host, and we'll be discussing a few topics as normal. But make sure you're not just coming back for us, be coming back for any time you like, because this radio station plays 24/7, so you can experience any sort of music you want any time of the day. And if you're interested in coming onto the show, just like how Elliot has today, be sure to contact us on Instagram, Indieverse_radio. And as well as that, if you want to hear more off Elliot, the full interview will be going up on our YouTube channel that we've got now. You can find a link to that through our website, again, on our Instagram. And Elliot, is there anything you want to say to the audience before you go?
Thank you for sticking with us, if you have done, for all this time of talking all sorts of stuff. Yeah, and keep listening to music and supporting upcoming artists, and yeah, hopefully see you at gigs soon. So you can find me at Limbo Days, so at Limbo Days on Instagram, Twitter. If you search Limbo Days on Spotify and Facebook, it should come up. All the streaming services, you'll find us on there with some new stuff popping up very soon, so give us a follow. So, this last song, little treat for you all. A guy called Richard Swift, who I was getting into a fair bit kind of last year. Great artist, unfortunately died a few years ago due to alcoholism, but has some great songs. And this song's quite an optimistic song, which is why I've chosen it to finish with. So, have a nice day, or night, or morning, or year. And this one's called Lady Luck.
Join me, Paul Holmes, every Thursday evening from 6 p.m. for the Indie Rocks Radio Show. Every week I bring you the best in new unsigned music, as well as the bands you all know and love. That's every Thursday, 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. on Indie Rocks Radio.